Welcome in, Cornhusker Connection. I'm Brandon Shanahan, joined by familiar faces Tyler Sprinkle and Brooke Byrne. Week 2 action coming on. We have our special guest of the week, Brett Sprinkle. Brett, thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I mean, I didn't know you were bringing an Iowa sweater in the background. That's pretty
I mean,
disgusting.
it is Iowa State week. It isn't really much of a rivalry because Iowa just dominates it, but you still got to show support for my boys every now and again, especially
I
when it matters.
I mean, congrats! You beat up on Iowa State. That's the
Somebody
peak of
has
the
to.
program. Somebody has to. Well, everybody does in a sense, but nonetheless, I'm actually really excited about that game. And we'll get into that later. But long time it's been since last time we got together. Nebraska's actually played a game, disappointing as always in a very oddly familiar way that I just wasn't quite expecting. But they covered the spread, so that's something. They had a chance to win late on the road, but nonetheless, it doesn't hurt any less.
And
Absolutely not.
I don't think it was that Nebraska lost. It was how they lost when you're up 10-3 with 3 minutes left to go in a game. They had like a 90% chance to win, and you fumble, you throw a pick.
Yeah, what are you doing throwing that ball there?
It was just unnecessary. Like, if you watched Minnesota late right before they kicked the field goal, it was all like short routes to the sidelines, and Sims tries to force a ball over the middle that didn't need to happen when they were moving the chains with his feet, and it was just a dumb mistake. Didn't need to happen.
Yeah, it was just a bad watch, and I remember because the defense came out so strong in the second half, and they got that they got the lead up to 10-3 with like 10 minutes left to go. They get the ball back. I remember tweeting, I'm like, oh, Nebraska's won. Minnesota's quarterback is cooked. He's not doing anything. And then we go out and throw 3 straight passes for a total of 1 yard and kill any momentum we have. Put the defense back out there, and the offense was so abysmal that the Minnesota quarterback Galifianakis or whatever his name is, he was able to get back into a rhythm and eventually throw that admittedly pretty killer touchdown at the end. Great catch from them, but missed false start, by the way, but it is what it is. It's just that familiar feeling. Because if you had told me going into the game, hey, Nebraska's going to lose by 3, their defense is going to look really good. Gabe Ervin's going to look really good. Jeff Sims he can run a football. You probably wouldn't want to tell me about how he throws the football. I don't think I'd be playing this game still. I'd take it. Be like, all right, yeah, that's fine. That's a win. We're 7-point dogs on the road. First game of the Matt Rule era. Again, at the time before the game, I'm probably thinking, well, Colorado's a cupcake next week. Still going to Michigan 3-1, easy breezy. But I would have taken it, without really thinking about it. But yeah, it played out in just such a familiar way. It's like, oh,
like looking back now, it wasn't as bad as I remember it being. But there are things during the game you're like, dude, come on, please, not again. And Anthony Grant fumbling all camp, decided to use him late in the game. What does he do? Surprise, surprise, he fumbles. Also, that last second interception didn't need to happen. Why are you throwing the ball there? Doesn't make any sense. The great thing about that game is Nebraska's defense looked really, really good. Hopefully, we can continue that against a high-flying offense, as it seems, in Colorado. And hopefully we can continue that trend of being a very stout defense. Things to forget, things to remember. All in all, sad day for Nebraska Nation.
Yeah, there's that saying that, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And I think Tyler and Brett pick up this notion. If a running back's a fumbler, believe him, he's going to be a fumbler.
Yep.
And it's so crazy because when you watch the tape of last year, he was like one of the few bright spots on the team, and he really wasn't that prior to this coming into this fall camp. But when you make the comments coming out of fall camp, like he's got to hold on to the rock, and then you as a coach to decide to put him in that situation, and he fumbles, like feels like that's on Rule and Satterfield to have him in the game there.
I get it, but you also got to factor in Gabe Ervin's dealt with injuries before. Of course, you don't you know how electric Anthony Grant can be. So if he can get Gabe some reps on the sideline or just some reps, and
But
still
we didn't need anybody to be electric was the problem. We needed to run the ball and kill the clock. And it's when you look at the game, the thing that frustrates me the most is if Sims doesn't throw the pick or Grant doesn't fumble the ball, or that Minnesota player make that incredible toe drag in the end zone. If one of those three things doesn't happen, we're sitting here singing a different tune with Nebraska being 1-0 is what's so hard for me to swallow.
And it's so hard because isn't that been the narrative the last 3 years? If we don't have a punt blocked, we win that game. If we just play a little bit of punt coverage in East Lansing, we win that game. Adrian Martinez doesn't fumble. If the refs blow the whistle before Adrian Martinez fumbles, we probably beat Michigan. If we blah, blah, blah. It's the same story. And I think that's what's so heartbreaking is that, no, it is a 3-point loss on the road, first game of the season, first game of a new coach in conference. By the way, I don't want to do that anymore. Give us our week 1 cup
I'm
game.
sick of that shit.
Like, don't put us on national TV. Put
Like
us on
Northwestern and
FS1.
Dublin.
Yeah,
Dude,
none of that shit
what gotta
anymore.
do to get, Iowa School of the Blind like Michigan does week 1 every year?
Yeah, I mean, back-to-back years, we are the laughingstock of college football going into the first weekend.
Well, it's like Harbaugh can self-impose a 4-game suspension because he's playing Division III
Hey,
teams.
put them up. Put them up.
Yeah, that was disgusting. Get the fuck out of here.
What a
They
bunch of
acted like
losers.
he got shot or something, but when in reality he's just recruiting illegally. Like, give
He's
me
a hero.
fucking break.
Hey, he's just buying the kid a cheeseburger. I don't know.
Yeah,
what's wrong
there's
with that.
nothing
Big
else
deal.
in there. Nothing
Yeah.
else.
I saw Brandon Walker talk about it. He's like, we didn't even do that for Mike Leach, and he died.
Yeah, what the fuck? And
but
then JJ McCarthy's dumbass sitting in their post-game presser saying, "I just want my coach back." Well, tell your coach not to be a fucking scumbag. Like, and then
Also,
he'll be there.
yeah,
It's just a game ban. He's there during the week. He's there Sunday through Saturday.
Is he?
Sunday through Friday.
That's something
Yeah.
I didn't understand about the whole thing. If he's there during the week, I mean, it's even more moronic.
That's a good thing about it being self-imposed. They kind of just get to make up the rules as they go.
Yeah.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
But-
Hey, NCAA, we're doing this for you, but I'm just gonna still hang out. I would be the coach on Saturday.
Yeah, but back to the Nebraska game, and I'm sure Brett can attest to this a little bit more than I can, being the actual higher level football player that he was. The game doesn't come down to 1 or 2 plays. Yeah, we could sit there and talk about the fumble and the pick, but there are a lot of other plays in that game that could have helped swing that.
I mean,
game
I can give you the
Nebraska's
stats
way.
right now if you want. I mean,
What?
5 sacks allowed, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble. The 4th down conversion or the end zone, the goal line stand that Minnesota had at the end of the half where Nebraska threw the interception. All those things add up to Nebraska just giving the game away. And it
Yeah,
did. It felt like Nebraska had it. And they kind of just gave it away.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention that you say that it doesn't come down to 1 or 2 plays, and then go ahead and list 4 or 5 different plays. But also, when all of those
6
plays
or
go
7.
one direction, yeah, those plays you can point at and be like, "Dang, that stunk."
All right, so
But can we also talk about that TD pass that Jeff Sims had? Like,
I mean,
what the hell
yeah,
was that?
it was.
Right
I
into
mean,
the half. I mean, it was right
Oh,
to
the
start the
the
third.
botched
Oh,
double pass.
Oh, yes.
fumble.
That was one of my
Oh
favorite
my
plays of the
God.
weekend. Yeah.
It's like a fumble
That was
rooski,
nuts.
dude.
That was like a fever
crazy.
dream. I almost forgot it happened. I thought I dreamed it.
I
I've
think-
been so sad the last week. I forgot that's how they got their touchdown.
It was a beautiful ball, though. It was beautiful.
to be fair, like when we were watching it in Colorado, like there was 12 guys in that house, and like he threw it and it got caught for a touchdown, and there was a definite pause where it was like quiet for 3 seconds. We're like, does that fucking count? It was surreal. And like back to Brandon's point, it was the thing that drives me nuts outside of like the toe drag from that Minnesota wide receiver for their touchdown. It doesn't feel like Minnesota like earned that win. It felt like we just gave it to them.
Mhm.
I mean, I'll tip my cap to that wide receiver. Incredible catch. But like Brett said, end of the first half, you throw a pick. You don't even get a field goal out of that. And then the 3 plays at the end, it's in my mind, you can circle it back to a certain number of plays because it felt like Minnesota's defense played well, Nebraska's defense played well, but like our offense is trying to give that thing away.
Well, I want to know what the what the thought process behind bringing in a Jeff Sims is. Just because he's not really a thrower. I mean, if you look at his career stats, 57% completion percentage. He's never thrown more than 200 passes in a season. He has 31 touchdowns, 26 interceptions in his career. So, like, he's not a passer. He's a dual threat. He's mostly a runner, and he proved that on Friday or Thursday as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why they got him, right? I mean, go back to the old style of Nebraska football until you can actually bring in a full recruiting class from Matt Rule. At least that's how I kind of see it.
Well, and that's fine, but then also don't let him throw the football if he's just going to keep going to the other team. Yeah, and my next point is Jeff Sims' butt. I think so. That was awful. I mean, it wasn't.
I don't think
like
it's week one.
He's an electric
He's on
runner.
the verge. He's on the verge of being a double cheeker, but right now only one cheek is out.
I can accept that. I can accept that for one game.
I guess, and trust me, a good week against the team out west this week, and I'm walking back my words like no other. But it's just the decisions that he made coming into this game where you had weeks and weeks to prepare for this specific team, and where it's just like those are the passes that you're going to settle for. Those are the mistakes that you're going to make. It never felt like one of those interceptions was a good play by Minnesota. It felt like, oh, Jeff Sims didn't know what he was doing there, and then it ended up in the belly of a gopher.
And just to play devil's advocate, I mean, I get Casey Thompson isn't the runner that Matt Rule was probably looking for. But I was sitting there Sunday on our way home thinking about a guy like DJ Uyalungulele or whatever. I know Oregon State had a better year than us last year, but you got to think Nebraska's probably a better brand. If they would have went after a guy like that at all, there are certainly guys that can run and pass that had shown more at their previous school than Sims had. So they must have saw something in Sims that they really liked, and maybe it was just a bad week.
After everything that they have said about Jeff Sims, he can beat you 3 different ways: with his arm, with his legs, and with his mind. 2 of those things were off. I don't think that they're just gassing him up. I really do think that this was just an off week for him. I'm hoping that he shows that next week and quiets everybody down a little bit, because I do think that this, again, I think it was just a bad week for him. I mean, because it was.
Did you guys see Matt Rule's quote in Corn Nation? I'm assuming he said it after the game, but I found it in cornnation.com. He basically was just sticking up for his quarterback, saying, he's not the first quarterback that's ever thrown 3 interceptions. Great runs, bounce back from it even better. So I think you find out a lot of people about the adversity they go through. All in all, he's disappointed in the game, essentially, but he had not been training that way in practice, and he feels like, actually pretty much what Tyler's saying, he was a little nervous, went out, made some mistakes. So Matt Rule's not, at least not publicly saying he's ready to make the change.
But my problem with that is it's not like Jeff Sims is a freshman. This guy's played 2 or 3 years of college football. He's played against some really good teams. You think with a guy with his amount of experience, the nerves are, maybe for a quarter or a half, but for a whole game,
yeah, there's a reason why you want to go get a senior in the transfer portal, and I get what
exactly for that very reason. It's, I mean, we could have put Gabe Irvin under center, in the 4th quarter, and as long as he doesn't fumble it, we would have won.
Yeah, it feels really simple, and yeah, that's exactly why you get an experienced quarterback. Because if this was a freshman, like a 4-star, 5-star freshman who's just getting slow out of the gates, great. I have way more grace for him. But when you look at Casey Thompson, Logan Smothers, and that quarterback room that Matt Rule inherited, and think I can do better than this, go out, get Jeff Sims, and then let those guys walk out the door. And then this is the performance that he gets in week 1. Again, if he has a stinker like this in the middle of the year, it is what it is. If he has a stinker like this against Michigan, it is what it is. But against Minnesota, who is a good defense, don't get me wrong, but it feels so disappointing. It's so much lower than what I would have expected, even in a bad game coming into it.
He's going to bounce back. He's going to be just fine.
I
totally believe that.
I'm truly rooting for him, pulling for him. I'll be happy to eat my words there, but I feel like we got to see it.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, we're stuck with him now. It is what it is. I mean, it's either him or Chuba Purdy or Harburg, who I guess might be our number one wide receiver by the end of the week at this rate. But
what a wrinkle that was to see him catching a pass. That was nuts.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. But who knows? I mean, that wide receiver room is getting pretty thin. Might be wide receiver one here going up here pretty soon. And that's the thing. And I'm not advocating like bench Jeff Sims already, because that feels crazy. Because these guys see these quarterbacks day in and day out. But that is what's worrisome to me, is that he sees all these quarterbacks, sees all the quarterbacks that he inherited, saw all the quarterbacks in the transfer portal, and thought, this is the guy. And that's the performance that he puts up.
Yeah, and people are already talking about, Casey Thompson did this and that for FAU or FIU, whichever the one he's at. It's not the same, though. It's not. I mean,
Casey's not the runner that Jeff Sims is.
Yeah.
Not like, Casey, can run, but
he doesn't.
Jeff Sims has like 4.3 speed. He's kind of a unicorn with his body type. It's just Casey's a way better, more experienced passer right now, and they didn't think the drop off would be as steep as it was week one. So
let me ask you boys, moving forward, knowing what we know now, how many pass attempts is too many pass attempts in a game for Jeff Sims in your eyes?
3. I mean, 0 if it's possible, but I think you got to throw in a couple of play action passes.
Yeah, keep them honest.
Maybe one of those fumble passes that they threw last week. If you could drop 3 of those again,
yeah,
that's great. Any more than that, I mean,
I don't think there's a certain number, because there are guys we got to get the ball to, like Billy Kemp and Fedoni and Washington. So we're going to have to throw the ball in some capacity. In my mind, I just don't want to see him forcing it. Like, if something's not there that he doesn't like, use your legs. Like, don't just, bail and, throw it up there. Like, it's a tough.
To answer that question seriously, I would say 20 or 25 times would be too many, because that means that we're playing from behind and we're trying to play catch up.
Yeah, and I don't think he can get that done.
Yeah, I almost want to see him throw the ball 20 times just to show the confidence is still there with him.
We just don't have the wide receivers to really facilitate that. I mean, you mentioned 2 great wide receivers and hopefully a good tight end, but other than that, I mean, it's all young guys or guys that haven't really seen the field too much. So,
they're pretty confident in Alex Bullock and Washington and Kemp. Maybe a guy like Fleet, who's a senior from Baylor, who's played a lot of college football. You start getting him involved, and Malachi. Some of the younger guys are going to have to step up at some point, because we can't.
He was mentioned. I think it was today. He was mentioned straight up by Matt Rule, saying like he's gonna.
We have to
take a step forward.
He's running out of bodies at this point.
We cannot play 11 more games without being able to throw the football. I mean, people are just going to start putting 8-9 in the box against us, and so we got to get Sims' confidence up somehow.
But a tall task this week. Admittedly, way tougher of a task than I thought it was going to be coming into this season. I mean, so are the Buffs back? Are they actually back? What the hell happened?
I think it's a combination of them having some really good players and TCU just being bad.
I mean, you saw it how many times this week with ranked opponents or ranked teams. I mean, LSU obviously does not look like the number 5 team in the nation. Clemson didn't look like the number 9 team in the nation. TCU certainly didn't look like the number 17 team in the nation. And there's probably a few more that I'm missing out on. But I think it just
no.
Way.
I mean, they were still like a 15-point favorite.
Yeah.
So I think it was just more of, oh wow, I guess we didn't realize that these guys are going to be that bad. At least that's what my dumb brain is hoping for, because if they are that good, then Nebraska's in for one hell of a game next week. So I would say yes and no.
I like what
Brooke
Brooke
said.
said.
Some more consistency.
I think I agree with what Brooke said. I think that yes, they have electric players. They have a lot of athleticism on the outside, but also we don't know how good TCU is going to be. It was kind of a track meet. Yeah, they threw for 500 yards. They also gave up 200 rushing yards. So I mean, we'll see. I think Nebraska's. I mean, we can get into it more later, but I think Nebraska's really well suited to take on Colorado with the way they're built right now. I actually really like Nebraska this week.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're better built to stop what they were doing so casually, and also to mention now there's actual film on what this Colorado team's going to look like. I can't imagine it was easy to prepare for a
And they
whole
only
new
have
football
1 week
team.
to prepare for Nebraska instead of a month to prepare for TCU.
So I think that
passing
helps.
attack from Jeff Sims.
Yeah.
Maybe last week was just a coy, just to let their sales down a bit. But I don't think TCU is going to be that bad. I think they have so many new pieces that it's hard to get them all to gel together. I think they'll get better as the year goes on, but I definitely don't think that they were very good in any way, shape, or form. But what impressed me so much about them is that, of course, they had a talented quarterback. Travis Hunter is insane, and then every part of that team's a huge step up from what they were last year, but they look just so dialed in and disciplined and focused and surgical. I mean, of course, you could rack up 500 yards by tossing the ball down the field, but TCU didn't give that up a whole lot. It was a little bit here, a little bit there, bigger play here, bigger play there, little. They were so diligent with everything that they did that's what impressed me the most. In a team where you have so many new moving pieces, they were just able to be so surgical. That's what impressed me so much.
And the thing that sticks out most to me, two things really, was TCU's bad tackling. I mean, it's on every highlight that a TCU defender's missing a tackle before a Colorado player, runs ass naked into the end zone. And two, for how locked in they were, their defense did give up all of 42 points. So for as good as their offense was, their defense is just as bad. And that's with Travis Hunter. So, and a lot of that was on the ground to TCU, because when TCU put the ball in the air, it felt like Chandler Morris turned it over in a couple of crucial spots where, Jeff Sims did the same. So it'll be an interesting battle with Nebraska's good defense and Colorado's good offense. And then on the flip side, bad Nebraska offense, bad Colorado defense. I think trying to guess the over-under for this game is going to be incredible, because I could see, 42-38, or I could see, 17-13.
What's the total right now? Do you know?
No
I think
clue.
it's 49.5.
Curious.
I think
That's crazy.
But also, before we declare Colorado back, they literally just matched their win total from last year. Let's let them double it before we start getting too excited. Let's let them win 2 games, and then we can start getting excited about Colorado. Because until then, they went 1-11 or 1-10 last year.
Yeah.
So.
It's definitely
It's
early, but still
58.5.
58.5 seems like a lot. I like
That's
That's a
lot.
lot.
Of points. That's a lot.
The only reason people are pumped about this Colorado win is because of that number 17 next to TCU's name, which they didn't even deserve to have.
Preseason rankings don't mean anything.
Exactly. Clemson lost to Duke, and LSU looked worse than they were, which time will tell with them. That's a tough game for anybody. A top 10 matchup that goes one way. Preseason rankings are all projections. It's like Texas A&M is habitually in the preseason rankings, and they go 5-7 every year, or at least the last 5.
Yeah, and it's just like there is a lot of credit to be given, because they were the worst team in college football last year, and I don't know how things will shape up. I don't know if they make it to a bowl game. I don't know if TCU still rattles off 8 wins, but that's definitely such a huge step up from what we just saw on Saturday, considering that they were the worst team, lost by an average of 30 points per game. I don't know how Cal let them get that 1 win, but it's very clear that what he's got going on is definitely heading in the right direction.
And I heard what Dion was saying after the game, like, oh, they wouldn't be saying these kinds of things to me if I wasn't an African-American head coach and didn't have 75% African-American locker room, that stuff. It's kind of crazy to me, because I think a majority of these schools are pretty much the same way, no?
The last 2 coaches at Colorado were black.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird comments, and maybe he's just trying to fire up his team and fire himself up. Like, yeah, you guys didn't think I was going to do this.
Well, did you see that video from College Game Day in 2009 or whatever year it was, 2013, where they're just chanting "fuck Nick Saban" over and over again in the crowd while ESPN's on the air. It's like, I mean, it happens around all the schools. Like, it's not just you, dude.
Like Lane Kiffin literally got golf balls chucked at him.
I mean, he probably deserves it.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong there, but I mean, that part's not unusual.
And listen, people wouldn't be coming after him so much if he wouldn't be saying, "I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis." You know, when you make claims
I was
like
I was hyped when he said that. To be honest.
I love Dion. I wanted him to come to Nebraska so bad, but you know, with the with the conservatives of Nebraska, the photogenetic people that kind of run Nebraska, I don't think
it never would have worked. Nope.
I mean, of course, the hindsight's 2020, but the floor for the Coach Prime experiment was definitely way lower than what Coach Prime could or what Coach Rule is gonna have. Now, granted, the ceiling's probably higher as he continues to mold that team, but man, there's a universe out there where this is a disaster, and obviously that's not the universe that we're in. Let me be clear, but yeah, I remember talking to you, Brooke, about that at the time. I was like, man, I do like Coach Prime. As a Colorado fan deep down, I love him for the Buffs. But what they were looking to do was just revamp something that Nebraska is just trying to upgrade and kind of springboard back into what they can accomplish.
Yeah. Listen, but to answer your question, Brandon, are the Buffs back? No. Are they better? Yes.
I like that. I would say not yet if they're back.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Travis Hunter is sick, though. I do want to point that out before we get off Colorado. Travis Hunter is sick.
I've never seen anything like it before.
And he really wants to go to the Broncos.
So I saw him score a touchdown and catch a touchdown or catch an interception. I was like, wait a second. Dude. I saw that guy on offense a little bit ago.
I mean, he was the best player on the field on offense. He was the best player on the field. I mean,
I love the clip of the TCU student section saying, "Throw it at Hunter," and then he picks the ball off. Like,
and they were like, "Who?" And then somebody flipped the camera on. Who said that?
Who said that?
Yeah. And the kid flips off the camera like, "Brother, come on."
Man's hurt.
I mean, he's insane. I could not. I didn't think that it was possible to live up to the hype just because of how much hype he was getting. But I'm like, oh, he eclipsed it somehow.
I mean, when you win with being 20-point dogs on the road, like, yeah, I mean, you get a little bit of hype, you get a little bit of praise for that, I feel like.
I mean, there are a lot of bruised throats on these major networks and on Twitter.
Bruised throats.
Oh, while we're on that subject,
Brooke knows a lot about that.
Bruised throats.
I mean, you have a bruised throat for Clemson and they lost. So, I mean, what are we talking about here?
Sure.
But guys like Robert Griffin III talking about, oh, I saw this coming with Dion. Like, brother, you didn't say shit before they won the game. Like, what are we talking about? That sent me up a wall. But
I did see it coming, though. I predicted it. I just wanted everybody to realize that.
Yeah, I definitely
put that on Twitter for me, please. I can totally see they called it.
There was one guy on TikTok who absolutely called it. It's Rico Knows. He's been pushing this all off season, was pointing at all the positions where Colorado upgraded. He guaranteed that they would cover against TCU, said that they're good enough to beat TCU. And he's the only person I've seen that I called and predicted what Colorado would become so quickly. Because, I mean, even me, I'm optimistic about Coach Prime, and I think that his experiment was going to work from the get-go. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it this quickly.
But again, like, it's only been one game. I think we need to pump the brakes just a little bit because they could still go 1-10. Like, it's still possible.
I mean,
like, I don't think they've achieved anything. They've won one game and it was impressive. But now we need like a better resume. They need to win 2 games, maybe 3 games.
Yeah, and if they beat Nebraska, it doesn't matter because Nebraska sucks anyway. So
that's an area
on their face.
3-year rebuilds.
And here's the thing: their schedule that they have to go through. I mean, they still got Caleb Williams, they still got Washington, they still got UCLA, Oregon that they have to go through. So I don't think they're out of the woods yet. Great win, like Brett said, as a 20-point underdog, you can't just ignore that. But let's get 4, 5, 6 wins before we start, anointing Dion as the second coming of Christ.
They're already trying to give him NFL head jobs. Like, I saw Pro Football Talk saying, "Yeah, hey, the NFL needs to start looking at Dion right now." I was like, "Dude,
yeah, do it." I mean,
He
Yeah,
still doesn't
get
have
on the
any
phone right
toes.
now
He still
before
doesn't have any
Saturday.
you
toes.
loser.
That would be the biggest mistake ever because what Dion does so well is he recruits. And in the NFL, he couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, as long as any team can get him by Saturday, that's what I'm here for. Just get him off the field here.
Nebraska's going to win, just so you guys know. I want to put that out there.
Love it.
But I do want to mention, and I don't want to get too soaked up in this moment, but I'm totally out on 3-year rebuilds. It doesn't take that long when you have the right guy. Granted, I don't think that Matt Rule has to win 10 games this year for him not to be a total failure, but it doesn't take long to win football.
How many games does he have to win in your eyes?
6.
Has to get to a bowl game.
Okay.
I mean,
Which I think is doable.
absolute
I do think it's still doable. Week 1 was certainly a bummer, but I think
how
it's still
bad
doable.
the Big Ten West looked in that week 1. Whoa. Also,
Yeah, Wisconsin didn't look like they were the powerhouse that people were thinking. Again, it's all week 1, so this
they're
could
in
just
a new regime too, though. It's,
Yeah.
the Luke Fickell era has just begun.
and that's definitely true, but with how explosive that offense should be on paper, the fact that they struggled with Buffalo for 2.5, 3 quarters is they're going to see some Big Ten defense.
Shout out Cleo Mack.
What a beast.
Shout out. Yeah, I don't know that there was a Big Ten West team that looked super good week 1.
No, not at all. But and I think that's why the path to 6 wins should be so clear. But and I remember when we had Luke on yesterday, I asked him, what did you see in Scott Frost that you knew wasn't going to work right away? And he looked kind of confused, like he wasn't winning football games. And yeah, of course we can kind of put together why he didn't win those football games and the context of everything. But when you have the right coach, they win football games.
But now we're poisoned. Now we're thinking way too much into every single loss. I see you skipped over one key point there on our notes that I was certainly super right about the fans being crazy. And here we go. The beginning of this podcast was basically Brandon calling for Jeff Sims' head on a platter because he threw 3 interceptions.
Brooke said he didn't want to throw. They were saying they don't want to throw again the rest of the season. It was crazy. Yeah, you guys are right. All very level-headed takes. I
absolutely. But yeah, Tyler was right on last week's episode. Tyler was like, "Well, if Matt Rule doesn't win right away, if people are going to be calling for his job." And I was like, "That's we're such a more humble fan base now.
Fire, get him out of here. Get him out of here."
That's such a silly take. And then
how much is a buyout?
I was like,
how much is a buyout?
I see it. People are
actually, I'm looking it up. Let's look that up.
And yeah, I'm definitely. And now I'm not a part of the mob that would even consider making a change of head coach.
Absolutely
but I'm like, he's got to win, and he's got to win.
Yeah, he does.
Quickly here.
There are expectations.
It doesn't take long,
but it's gonna take a little bit.
Hey, only $72 million to get Rule out this week, so you guys are good.
That's
just
pocket change.
Pony it up, yeah.
That's pocket change for the boosters.
I didn't mention that. I mean,
that's like a half a year's worth of corn in Nebraska.
Yeah. It's nothing.
That shitty Iowa corn.
But I am not out on 3-year rebuilds because I think that this year still has a lot of juice left to squeeze. Which at the end of the season, I'll be able to make an educated decision on whether or not I see this rebuild going anywhere.
Well, ideally, at the end of those 3 years, you want to be a national championship contention. That's what I take away from a 3-year rebuild. So, I mean, if you win 4 games this year, 8 games next year, 12 games the year after that, the rebuild's there. You're already championship contenders. So, I think it's tough to judge anything on the first season, but I think you just got to roll with the punches.
From where we are right now, it feels like it should take 8 years for us to get to that 12 spot.
Goodness.
I'm just being realistic. Damn, going from 4 wins last year, or I don't even know how many we had last year, to 3 years from now being a 12-win team. Can you guys even fathom that?
No, we just got to get that that fourth quarter losing culture out of our system. The greatest 3-9 team of all time, as funny as that is to talk about, I want that gone from memory.
Yeah. It would have been funnier if we had won 9 games the year after. Would have been a lot more fun.
It would have been way funnier, but
now it's just oh no, yeah, they actually did just suck.
But the Big Ten's only getting stronger.
And listen, with the roster talent Matt Rule has right now, this honestly should be considered as year 2 of the rebuild. Because when you look at the rosters he had taking over Temple and Baylor, I mean, they were horrendous. And on this one, you have a ton of 3 and 4 stars. So
the tough thing is it's the team, at least to me, and I could be, super wrong about this in the grand scheme of things, but the team is pretty old. Like, there's a lot of seniors on this team.
There is a good mix. A lot of the starters are older, and with that, some of them can come back, but as you're starting to see, like, guys don't want to stay in college for 6-7 years. Like, they want to get
unless you don't have any chance
unless you're
of
JT
playing in the
Daniels.
NFL.
Yeah, unless you're JT Daniels or
JT
Bo Nix,
Daniels.
you just want to stay around
Go
forever.
home.
It's funny. The first 3 games I watched, they're like, "Oh, this guy's been in college for 8 years. Oh, this guy too. Wow, got a lot of experience on these teams."
I don't remember what school it was. I think it may have been a smaller one or D2 or something. But there was a 25-year-old brother playing with his 18-year-old freshman brother on a college football team. 7 years of difference. That's the world we live in today.
All right, we can wrap this up, fellas. Well, thanks for watching along. We'll be back. I don't know. We'll be back.
Sick.